Hello, this is Bino. Welcome back to my channel. If you guys aren't familiar with my channel, we're a channel of tree climbing information, like knot tutorials and tree ID, things like that. Anyhow, about a couple weeks ago, or maybe almost a month and a half ago, I shared information about my personal life where I was diagnosed with cancer. And what we're going to do today, we'll talk about the prostatectomy surgery that I had and just update you all on what's happening. All right, let's get to it. My surgery was on November 12th. So I went to the hospital, got there at 8:30 in the morning. I was told my surgery was supposed to start around 10:30, so the 8:30 meetup time. Got there into the lobby, checked in. I waited for a little bit. By 9 o'clock, they called me up, and then they took me in to get me prepped for the surgery. So while I was in the prep room, they explained to me that the surgery was going to be delayed, and they weren't really sure how long. So I figured, that's fine. They had to get me all ready, so they have to, hook you up with the IV and give you some medication to prepare you to put you to sleep. Fill out all the paperwork. So that that's what happened. About 11:30, they called me in and said that that's when the surgery is going to happen. So earlier they had already explained the surgery should take about 4 hours to do, and that was great. All prepared. It was crazy. They tell you though they got you prepared and they had the IV in you, and they said, "Are you ready?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, sure, I'm ready." And they with the syringe they put the anesthetic in, and I just knocked out. Boom! Didn't know what hit me. Just out. Um, my understanding is the surgery went really well. It was a 2 hour long surgery, and normally, like I said, a 4 hour surgery. Um, got through the surgery. So after that happened, they brought me back to the recovery room. And that recovery room took a bit of time for me to wake up. I think it was almost an hour or so to wake up. They told me that I was grabbing my. I didn't even know this. Didn't have any clue, but they said I was kind of grabbing all the needles and stuff when I was waking up, which is weird because the only thing that I recall is a guy saying, "Hey, are you okay?" And I look and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he says, "Oh, because you were trying to grab all your stuff." I'm like, "Whoa, didn't know that." Um, that was pretty interesting. So recovery went well. I woke up, so they let me go home. On the way home, I gave out a real quick shout out to in Instagram and TikTok. I gave everybody a well wishing and people who thanked or gave me prayers and well wishes. Home, the trip home was great. Um, Anyhow, a little bit further than that, when I got home, everything was going well. Around 10 o'clock at night, I kind of leaned forward and blood squirted out of one of my wounds. It was kind of scary because, I had searched. So in the prostatectomy surgery, there's 6 holes that they put in you. And as they're finishing up, they stitch them, and they stitch them from inside and out. And then the last wound, what they do is they glue it. So that's what I had. I had glue on all the outside wounds. And when I was at home at 10 at night, I leaned forward and it just gushed. So it really freaked me out. So when that happened, what we did is my wife took me to emergency. That it's a scary thing. I know the robotic surgery, they go deep into your body, and that's how they do the surgery. Well, I would say we got to emergency around 10:30 at night. Waited a lot of the evening till about like 2 in the morning when I was seen. And so when they brought me in, the doctor looked at my wound and he says, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's leaking, but we can't reglue it." I thought that that's what they do, just reglue it so that nothing would be leaking out. They said, "Well, we can't do that." So what they did is they did a steri strip, and what that is it's like strips, and then they glue it. but it's not the same as what was before. And it was still, well, and then they put a Band-Aid on it. And they said, yeah, okay, you can go home. I ended up getting home about 4 in the morning. So, that was done, and then went to bed. Later on that day, I wake up, and the steri strip started to leak again. And not that sad, I had another one on the other side. It started to leak out. And so I figured, well, instead of me going back to emergency, that I'll call the doctor and find out if there's something, because I don't want to go wait in emergency for hours and hours. So I was able to call back to the hospital, and I was able to talk to the surgeon, and the surgeon explained that, that's pretty normal. And I went, well, I didn't know that. So that it was normal. He said that what you can do is you just continue to change the bandages. And so lucky for me, my wife is a nurse, and she was helping me to do that. And it put my mind at ease. It was a very scary thing for me to do the surgery. And then to have the leakage was pretty darn scary. So we figured that out, and that was pretty good. After that, we just continued to do the bandages, and then after a few days, it stopped completely leaking, which was a heck of a lot better for me. And so the next thing is, um, with the surgery, what they also do is they install a catheter. Um, I really didn't know this stuff, but a catheter is a tube that goes into your penis, and then it's connected to a bag. What the catheter does, it it saves your bladder from working. So I had to have that catheter on for 7 days. I got to say that was one of the most uncomfortable things about the surgery, is having the catheter on, and for it to be in there for 7 days. So what happens is you have it connected to you, and it's connected to your leg, or you can hang it onto something. You got to sleep with it. It was real uncomfortable to sleep with it. Trying to turn. It's not really a good thing to do. Walking around, having it. They did also explain that having that on, that it does save your bladder, and some of the natural things that you might see is blood. So it's a bag, and it's a clear bag. You could see your urine from it. They also mentioned that if you see chunks of like meat, that's pretty normal. And after a few days, then it should clear up, and that's what you'd want to see. But hearing that you might see some meat was pretty scary. Um, but we had a good result. Even though I had that on for the days and it was uncomfortable, I never saw chunks of meat in it, and it wasn't really. It might have been like 2 days of it, like kind of a reddish color, and then after that, it turned into what urine's supposed to be, like kind of a yellowish, light yellow color, and so that part was okay. So after that week, what I had to do is go see a nurse to have the catheter removed. So I think after a week was enough time for the bladder to heal. So I go back to the hospital, and I get into the room, and you know the nurse right away says, you got to drop your drawers and everything. And I'm like, it made me a bit nervous, and I'm like, oh, okay. So drop everything off. And then she says, well, what we're going to do is you're going to have to lean back. So I lean back on the table, and she says that we're not just going to remove this. You have to get filled up with water, and you're going to have to hold it, and then you're going to have to pee it out. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, so we have to refill your bladder, and then you have to hold it for a bit to see if you can hold it. And if you can't let it release, well, the catheter is going to have to stay on. And I'm like, ooh, because I wanted to get it off. So I'm laying back. She gets the catheter, took the bag off, and then she connected this tube to the hose, and she said it has to be 200 like millimeters that we got to fill it up. And I'm like, okay. So she grabs a tube, and then she pours into it, and it's kind of cold water. I could feel it it was going into my body, and I could feel the coolness of the water. So the first tube she got, and it just drained perfect. And she goes, that's great. We got to fill it up again. And so as she filled it up, it went like it dropped pretty easy, and then at the halfway mark, it stopped. And she goes, you got to relax, and you got to let this go in because we have to put this amount in. And I'm trying to relax. I kind of let back and tried to breathe a little, but it wasn't budging. So she goes, okay, so what next I have to do? It was like a big syringe. So what next I have to do is I have to get the syringe and push it in. And I'm kind of thinking, you push it in, is that safe? So she grabbed the syringe, connected it, and just pushed it in. Man, I jumped, but it went in. And then she goes, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this go and don't release it. And I'm like, okay, so I'm doing my best to hold it, and I was holding it very well. And she goes, okay, now you can release it. And so when I released it, all of what she put in was able to drain out in a container. And then she goes, okay, now we're ready to take the catheter out. Okay, so I'm like, inside the catheter, what they do is they stick that tube inside, and at the end there is a bubble filled with water, so it won't allow the tube to come out. So what she did is she got a syringe, connected it to that tube, and she sucked the water out. And I'm kind of getting prepared because I'm thinking it might be really painful. So she undid the syringe and all of a sudden just yanked it. I I almost jumped, and it was kind of like scary and painful at the same time, but she got it out fairly quickly. So that was finished, and I passed the test, and she said that, yeah, you're okay, you're ready to go home. I was super happy about that. What can happen at that point in time, because you have a catheter in there, it might take some time for your bladder and your muscles to be prepared. So I had to wear these adult diapers to, on the way home to make sure that there was no kind of leakage. So um, that was getting the catheter out. So it was great. Then we went home, and everything on the ride home was fine. So now that the catheter was all out, it was a heck of a lot more comfortable. But now I was still dealing with my stomach, and it was pretty painful. By now, I was not using any pain medications anymore, and I still had some of the glue left on. Nothing was leaking anymore. And I had maybe another couple of weeks until I was able to see the surgeon for my next checkup to clear me. So I had to concentrate on not like doing quick movements or lifting anything heavy. So, but it was so much more comfortable without having that catheter. So then the next thing, I'll fast forward to the next time I was going to go see the doctor, is around December 5th when I went to see him. Got to see him, and then he looked at all of the wounds. He explained they were healing well and you're doing great. So I got another couple of more weeks from that appointment until I'm ready to go back to work. Um, so all of that, everything was all checked, and I was doing well. Pretty soon I'll be back at work, and hopefully, just like normal again. Anyhow, what I wanted to say to everybody who made all the comments and prayers for me, and all the well wishes on YouTube. I'm so happy and fortunate that I had so many of you guys make the comments and share your information, and a lot of information. A lot of you also gave me some information on cancer and how to deal with it, and just all of the people, subscribers, and viewers. I really appreciate you all, and I do want to wish you guys all a very merry and happy Christmas. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. We'll see you on the next time.